From the time it was shown to be a genre-skipping take on a classic, I've dismissed Final Fantasy VII Remake out of hand. Just like mainline installments 15 and 16, I simply won't support a classical JRPG moving away from any form of turn-based combat, in this case ATB. After the release of the first in the trilogy, it really felt as though Square Enix was attempting to replace the original 1997 release with it, which I just wasn't down with. First, let me make one thing absolutely clear. Final Fantasy VII does need replacing. If we're honest, the game's visuals have aged like raw sewage, and the original localization was never any good in the first place. However, the gameplay was never the problem, and the insinuation that the remake was in any way a suitable long-term replacement for the original game, when the action combat system was tantamount to throwing the baby out with the bathwater, really put me off. Classical JRPGs, including Final Fantasy VII, are supposed to be nice, chill gaming to relax to. I can't relax to an action game. Thus, I experienced the first remake entirely from the sidelines, passingly curious about some deviating story beats I heard about, like the Whispers and the fact that Aerith and Sephiroth were operating on knowledge they clearly should not have at that point in time. I never took the plunge though, because from everything Square Enix was trying to put forth, this was still just supposed to be what Final Fantasy VII was now, and being a big proponent of the vote with your dollar mentality, I wasn't going to reward them for that. Fast forward to the build to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it's now abundantly clear that this is not at all a Final Fantasy VII remake in any true sense of the word, but a new story being told altogether. We won't be seeing this trilogy in place of the original 1997 release in any future collections, which completely changes my perspective of it. While I'm not wild about spin-offs in most cases, I'm a lot more permissive toward them than I am about deviations in gameplay within a main series context, as I wasn't bothered by Dirge of Cerberus or Crisis Core either. Want to turn Mega Man into a JRPG? Cool. Want to turn Guilty Gear into a beat-em-up? I'm down with that too. Actually, I played a ton of Judgment back in the day. It's always nice to see developers I love branch out when I know it isn't going to upset the identity of the core franchise, and while I have plenty of those gripes with Final Fantasy as mentioned earlier, it's clear after Summer Game Fest that this Final Fantasy VII project isn't such a situation. Really, now I'm kind of intrigued about the concept Rebirth is developing into, to the point that I'm currently downloading my PlayStation Plus version of Intergrade on my PS5 as I speak. Final Fantasy VII doesn't have my favorite cast in the series by a long shot, but I do generally like the characters and am completely open to exploring new possibilities and concepts involving them, now that I have that assurance that it isn't trying to outright replace Final Fantasy VII with an action game. I'm honestly looking forward to seeing what they're setting up and enjoying the remaining build to Rebirth with you all. I may be very strict about mainline series installments coloring inside the lines, and take great pride in being the type of gamer who makes risks, but I'm not an unreasonable guy, and if I find a spin-off to be interesting, I'll give it a look. There is, of course, a major lingering problem. This is not a true remake of Final Fantasy VII, which means that it still desperately needs one, and Square Enix has positioned itself in such a way to disingenuously claim that they have given us one once any future requests are heard. This puts the likelihood of us ever getting to experience the original game with modern visuals and a decent localization engraved out, and while Ever Crisis had a chance of being the Final Fantasy VII remake we need, being confined to mobile more than likely curses it to a future of simplified gameplay and microtransaction hell that makes it a non-starter. It's frustrating to realize that we wouldn't be in this mess at all if Square Enix had just seen the overwhelmingly positive response to the PS3 tech demo and immediately greenlit it as an actual development project. Only 8 years removed from the original release at the time, it would have much more likely been a straightforward remake, and considering that it would have been in development around the same time Tetsuya Nomura was pushing his Fabula Nova Crystallis nonsense, it could have very well represented an internal counterpart to that project and changed the entire course of the franchise. Maybe it's one of those things that a fan project can accomplish on the down low and get it out into the wild before they get cease and desisted, unlike what happened to that ill-fated Chrono Trigger fan remake years ago. Moving back to the topic at hand though, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Intergrade has to offer and enjoying the build up to Rebirth. If I have any remaining gripes, it's that the olive branch to the more traditional JRPG fans, much like the wait mode in Final Fantasy XV, is more patronizing than it is useful or a genuine solution to player requests. Packaging it as a super easy mode is particularly insulting. I don't want the game to be easy, I just want it to be tactical and deliberate with plenty of time to think about an action before I make my move. Square Enix's own back catalog is full of examples of why turn-based combat and high difficulty don't have to be mutually exclusive. They just released a bunch of them on PlayStation and Switch. So I'm going to be playing it in full action mode because I don't want to sleep through any game that makes no genuine effort to fight back, and for what it is, I'll probably enjoy it, especially based on what I've seen so far from the periphery. Does this mean I'm going to magically come around on 15 and 16? Not a chance. I'll reconcile with the main series when it goes back to its turn-based ATB or CTB roots, which I really don't feel is as unlikely as a lot of other people seem to. All indications are that the low pre-order numbers for Final Fantasy XVI have Square Enix executives concerned, even taking the PS5 exclusivity into account. And we now have it on good authority that incoming CEO Takashi Kiryu is a Final Fantasy fan from way back. I like where this is going. So that's all for now. If you like this video, then please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe as it all helps grow the channel. Click the notification bell to know right away when the next video's up. I'm Patrick Mifflin, sounding off.